It's that part. It's that part right there. And what is that part? That part is the main thing. The main thing is the point of whatever it is that you're talking about or dealing with, or a person, place, or thing. Whatever it is. I mean, you've heard the term that part. It just places emphasis on whatever it is that whatever the subject matter is, or whatever you're dealing with here. So, um, welcome to today's episode. We'll explore a lot of different things there. We'll try to get through it and get you back and on to the rest of your day. But there, I mean, there's so much. So we'll do follow up and all of that. But I definitely want to check in to let you know what's going on. We're coming to you live right now out of Southern California. And so we're going to take a look at Southern California, extend our focus, um, to the border states. Then we're going to transverse the West Coast and finally delve into national and international stories impacting the United States. And so you'll be informed. Now, a lot of it, if you follow social media, of course, you're probably well informed already. So, thus, it's that part. I'm just going to drill down on some things that you already know and might have some thoughts about. And at the end, I'll let you know how you can get in contact. Well, as a matter of fact, you can get in contact with me right now if you like, depending on when you're listening to this, at itsthatpart.com. Itsthatpart.com. Go to the website there and you'll find contact information to get directly in contact with me. And I'll address whatever your concern is and get back to you. And who knows, maybe talk about it on the air. At any rate, Southern California, the wildfire aftermath and the economic path is the heading of this bit, or this spot, I should say. And speaking of spot, we are being sponsored directly through affiliation by Fix. That's Phix. Fix. And I'll tell you more about that a little bit later on, as well as give you some information on how you can get involved with it or get connected to it. It's awesome. It's awesome. Uh, I'm a witness. That's if you're trying to get yourself together, trying to feel good and look good. Fix can fix you. At any rate, recent studies have revealed that the Palisades and Eaton wildfires, which devastated parts of Los Angeles earlier this year, have caused billions in damages. The economic repercussions are expected to be felt for years, affecting local communities and economies. That's not hard to believe. That's not a stretch or anything like that. And if you've seen any of the videos and still photos online, you know what it looks like. And if you live out here and have had the opportunity to drive through the neighborhood, of which I have, uh, it's it's just sad. In fact, at my church, we have a number of individuals who lost everything, and and so that story will continue, and I think we have a little bit more on that and what the state is or isn't doing as it relates to that. And I'm not going to be jumping down on the negative of what the state isn't doing or what Karen Bass isn't doing. It's not about that. We're well beyond that. It's about, if you need some help, this is how you can get it. Rebuilding. Let's see. USC. Here. Speaking of good news, USC triumphs in women's basketball. In sports, the University of Southern California's women's basketball team clinched the Big Ten title by defeating UCLA, crosstown rival, 80-67. Star player Juju Watkins led with 30 points, marking USC's first Big Ten title in their inaugural year in the conference. And that's a great start. That's a great start. And it's a great school. Both of those schools are great. Um, and there's going to be a podcast that I will also plug. Uh, the Logical Lawyer with attorney Bernie Brown, who was a former Southern California or Los Angeles assistant city attorney, and he has a great podcast, and you'll want to check that out. I'll give you some information at the end as well. I'll make a note of that. But he's an alumni of UCLA. That was the bottom line of all that. But USC, my favorite, they won, and this was their first time. This was their first championship within the Big Ten. They moved over from the Pac-10, or was it 12? 10 or 12, one of the two. Anyway, elsewhere in California, as I mentioned earlier, the Governor Newsom's wildfire prevention measures. In those measures, Governor Newsom has invoked emergency powers to help expedite wildfire prevention projects by suspending certain environmental regulations. The state aims to accelerate the clearing of flammable brush in forests, and a move prompted by recent criticism over wildlife policies. Now, let's take just a moment to take a look at that. On the surface, it would seem like he's responding to something that the current administration has long criticized California for. Now, I'll just say that as a resident of the state, and one who has actually driven through some of the forests out here, and there are a lot of them out here. Um, you can do all the clearing that you want. That's not going to get the desired results that many who do not live in California, but who have been to California. They've been out here. They've seen it, and I'm sure they've looked at it and thought it was just beautiful and wonderful and everything. But it's science. It's biology. Uh, you know, and leaves fall. No matter how big or small they are, they fall. They get old, they brown, and that's just the cycle of life. And in this particular case, in the plant world, they can clear. I mean, as a matter of fact, you can't clean up the whole forest. I mean, it's gigantic. What are you talking about? Up over mountainous terrains and all of that. I mean, come on. I mean, just bring up California in your browser and look at the forest. The Los Angeles National Forest, for instance, the San Bernardino Mountain, um, uh, uh, let's see, Mount Baldy, Big Bear, uh, you know, Snow Summit, all of these places. Bring them up. Look at the forest. You think somebody's going to get out there and just with a broom and dustpan and and clean things up. It's not like that. It's a whole process, yeah, an ongoing process. And I'm not. That's not to say that they haven't been engaged in that over the years. But to think that you can just go in and just clean things up, quote unquote, in a couple of weeks or so is preposterous. Quite frankly, I'm not even going to say unrealistic. Excuse me. I'll just say it's preposterous. It can't be done. Anyway, that's what's going on. That's what he's going to do. And I suspect that he'll jump through that hoop, and then the current administration will present yet another hoop to jump through. And oh, please. I thought I was off mic, but I guess I'm not. You can tell this is live. There it is. I hit the right button this time. At any rate, I mean, it's another show. We'll deal with that the relationship between uh, Governor Newsom and the current administration, because it deserves a conversation. It's and it kind of goes into some other stories that we'll be looking at here, as far as how the current administration does or conducts business. Now, that has nothing to do with governing, the nation. Everything with them appears to be transactional, and that's not governing. That's totally different. At any rate, upcoming storm systems. California is preparing for a series of storm systems expected to bring significant rainfall and snow at the higher elevations, of course, particularly in northern and central regions of the state. These storms are anticipated to peak during the second week of March, which would be this week or next week, um, with potential uh, atmospheric river events, I should say, contributing to the wet weather. And you might recall that a few weeks ago, the current administration suggested, or shall I say, during the during the fires or shortly thereafter, the current administration suggested that you know the only thing that needs to be done was to open up the dam upstream and let the water just flow downstream. My goodness. Yes, it's that part right there. It's that part right there. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're working with. That's what we're doing in 2025. All right, more West Coast news. Yeah, the economic impact of U.S. tariffs. And whenever you hear U.S. tariffs, think of taxes, basically, and not taxes on uh, our goods, or shall I say, it's not that the country that we are taxing or that they're paying for, the goods there. It's us. Everything is transferred to us. I'll just put it like that. They may pose the taxes may be posed to that country, but that country's not going to pay it. If they do, they will certainly pass that on, the non-savings, on to the consumer here that's consuming whatever that good is. Just got something in on the phone here. Let's see. I'm good at 3 a.m. Okay. Cool. And yes, one Monday through Monday through right. Yeah. Setting up a great interview, or a great dialogue, I should say, with um, Brother Leo Stella of Stella Insurance, and he deals directly with Medicare and um, Cover California out here, and he helps people navigate through all of that, especially those boomers, and especially in times such as these, where we really don't know, what you have. There are things that are being gutted and curtailed and cut. And if you're entering the age to whereas you may be, near a fixed income, of course, they're trying to take care of that as well with the Social Security impacts. Well, Mr. Stella, he will be one of a number of people that will come on the air to help you, help you eh, be as rest assured as possible. Because these times are unlike other times of the past, and we will all need someone to lean on, for uh, good, concrete information, and so that's where he's coming in. But more on that. We got all kinds of stuff coming up here on it's that part, because it's that kind of show. We talk to people that are in the know, that and people that have their own opinions about things, which includes you. Yeah, again, please get in contact with us at itsthatpart.com. Leave your comments so we can, address them. I'm in connection with a number of different people that are in the know. And, speaking of that, this platform and others like it is the alternative to the mainstream media. You will probably hear some things that you haven't heard, learn some things you did not know, and perhaps even some things that you have, you know, but, and so you will be able to relate to, the conversation. That's not something that you would be able to do with the mainstream media, who are driven by a whole different set of metrics. And interestingly enough, the metric that includes you is minimal. If they can generate ad revenue, with no people, they would do it. That's case in point on of how they can easily discard of great talent. And I'm not just talking about Joy Ann Reid, which is which is, one case in point there. There have been, many. So, at any rate, there are some tariffs. The announcement of new U.S. tariffs on European car imports has led to a sharp decline in shares of major car manufacturers like BMW and Porsche. This development is causing concerns about potential economic repercussions on the West Coast, particularly in areas reliant on automotive imports and related industries. If you've ever been out here in Southern California on the West Coast, uh, you would think that you are in Bavaria somewhere, or in Japan for that matter. But definitely, probably the second capital after the first capital in Germany, in Deutschland itself, for German vehicles. And as the story alludes to, it's not just the consumers that are feeling this; it's the investors that are feeling this. And at some point, something's going to happen. Something's going to break. The news media, the mainstream news media, throughout Joe Biden's last term, or his only term, were beating the drum about recession, and inflation, and all of these different things there. The recession never came. But guess what? There are a lot of signs that point towards the fact of it coming. Case in point, you didn't hear stories like this. You know, um, Manufacturers like BMW and Porsche uh, becoming, concerned about the decline in shares. I mean, you weren't even talking about shares, but you are now and will be. So it's that part right there. Taking a look at national news here, the U.S. Ukraine relations and political reactions are in the news. A recent meeting between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky ended abruptly without a resolution, marking a historic moment of tension between the two nations. The contentious exchange has elicited varied um, reactions across the political spectrum in the United States, and I might add worldwide, because it was unprecedented and unnecessary. Most people, you know, that's where they come down on that. That it was definitely unnecessary, and at the end of the day, there will be a deal. It just might not be with the United States. The United States has already staked out its position and the side that it will stand on. And that's really something. That's really a departure from the past. But here we are. It's that part right there. Now, we were moving out nationally, and the reason why this is coming up on the line here in the national realm is because of the scope, and that is the Oscars. The Oscars are happening probably right about now. Uh, by the time at the time that you're listening to this, it will most definitely be already history. But it is happening right now out here in Los Angeles. The 97th Academy Awards are set to take place tonight. It's probably going on right now at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles, hosted by Conan O'Brien, who has a show on Sirius XM. And of course, he used to host Late Night with Conan O'Brien. The event will honor the best films of 2024 with performances by artists like Doja Cat and Ariana Grande. Notably, Carlos Sofia Gascon, the first openly transgender star nominated for Best Actress, plans to attend despite recent controversy. And I won't get into that right now. That's yet another show. But I'll just say that uh, times have changed. The current administration and those associated with the current administration has declared war on the transgender, or what I like to say, those that are different or look different or act different than they do. That's not what Jesus did. Read the book, the Bible, that is. It's that part right there. Anywho, moving on to international. European leaders seek a Ukraine peace plan, as aforementioned. In the wake of the strained U.S. Ukraine relations, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is leading a European initiative to revive peace talks in Ukraine. A summit in London with European leaders aims to create a coalition capable of presenting a viable peace plan, highlighting Europe's commitment to regional stability. And I think that that's probably the best course of action here. The United States has been the leader in the free world for decades, uh, most notably since World War II. And I think that this change might end up being something that's good for the world. That is not necessarily for us here in the United States, because we've always lived, at least I have, all my life has been a part of a democracy, one that's growing, the one that changed. Of course, my ancestors were enslaved. So there's that part right there. But currently, we're not enslaved, at least not, you know, in physical servitude. That's reserved for those that are incarcerated, because the 13th Amendment does not apply to those that are incarcerated. I think they purposefully left that out. And so, you know, there has been some changes, there has been some progress. But just as, it just seems like, so many things have changed, it seems as though many things remain the same and even worse. It's that part right there. So we'll be looking at that as we proceed in this year. Staying overseas, the UK aid budget cuts spark outcry. The UK government's decision to reduce its overseas development aid budget from 0.5% to 0.3% of gross national income has been met with severe criticism from international development groups. Experts warn that this reduction could have dire consequences for vulnerable populations worldwide, undermining efforts to address poverty, health crises, and climate change impact. I suspect that, and we'll wait and see, but I suspect that The current administration will try to, you know, leverage what we have in resources and what we have supplied them with, them being the UK with, to make some other kind of deal, of course. See, it all ties in together. You know, some people might be for nationalism, that is, America first and all of that, but we are really, really beyond that. We're all interconnected. And so it behooves us to, try to work in that fashion there, lest we fall into the dark pit of authoritarianism, um, with a dictator, determining the fate of the country, of countries, because there are a number of them out there. Again, we're living in some really, really interesting times here. And just another nod back at mainstream media, you're not going to get necessarily the straight news from mainstream media. It's going to be watered down and uh, homogenized and filtered. On this platform, on this particular show, and shows like this, it will be unfiltered. It'll be unfiltered until they pull the plug, I guess, on all of us, and we'll be in trouble. Everybody worldwide. Okay. U.S. tariffs affect the global markets is also in the news. We spoke of the UK. The president, I'll just say the current administration's announcement of new tariffs on imports from Mexico, Canada, and China has unsettled global markets. You don't say. I wonder why. The 10% levy on Chinese goods is in particular has raised concerns about escalating trade tensions and their potential impact on the global economy, mainly because, China carries a major part of US debt. And so, I mean, they could really wreak havoc on our economy there if they really wanted to. If they wanted to call in that debt. It's that part right there. And again, it's that part is the main thing. That's the point of it all. So with that said, um, we'll just keep an eye. We'll stay awake on all this thing there. I won't use the phrase that seems to pop people's heads off because even though the fact that it's a positive phrase that was derived back in the day when uh, people of color, black people, needed to be aware of what's going on, be it someone coming down the road or what time of day it is, being home before, the lights were out and, the lights came on or whatever. Although back in those days they didn't have, street lights, but uh, they needed to be aware because you could be the next person to meet, a gruesome fate. That's where the phrase "staying woke" came from. It was a call to action, basically, and it still is, just in a different manner here, because you want to stay informed, because because a lot of information is not being disseminated. We didn't even get into the health situation here, at least here in the United States. and the fact that things are not being reported and meetings are being canceled, um, you know, and people are being fired. People that are in charge of determining what's going on with a particular strain of or strand of virus. And they interact with our international, partners, just like they have for decades. But now that's all changed. Now that's all changed. And we'll get into that next time, as far as how it changed and who made the change and all of that. So you keep it right here. I'm Jesse L. Hammonds, the podcast professor, and it's that part right there.